One of my favorite genres of games are flight combat games. Ace Combat, Tom Clancy's Hawks, Blazing Angels, and tons of others have always been one of my favorite types of games. There's something just so exhilarating playing a game where you get into an intense aerial dogfight that no first person or third person shooter has ever really managed to scratch. So I was pleasantly surprised with Red Wings Aces of the Sky, an indie flight combat game set during World War I. This game released about 5 years ago and was developed by All In Games, who have a pretty decent roster of games under their belt. Red Wings is honestly a really fun game. I played the PS4 version on the PS4, and truthfully, it honestly felt like I was a kid again, playing one of the various World War II air combat games I grew up with. The game just has this sort of old school charm to it that makes it feel like a PS2 game, in both good and bad ways. I should make a quick disclaimer that I only played this game in split-screen co-op. I haven't played it solo, so my experience with this game is only from a co-op perspective. I don't know if that really matters, but I thought I should just get that out there. Red Wings has two campaigns, a German and British campaign. The German campaign follows the Red Baron in his early days of the war and how he gained his notoriety, with the British campaign following a special squad to take the Red Baron down. Narratively, this story is whatever. The voice actors for both campaigns sound like they're reading from a script, which I admit might have been the point since it's supposed to be someone reading from a journal, but the performances come off kind of flat. Gameplay is also pretty identical between the two campaigns. You have a lot of the same missions and mechanics, just access to different planes. The core gameplay has you dogfighting enemies while monitoring your health and fuel reserve. The faster you fly, the more fuel you'll burn up. Health is sort of regenerative, with it separated in sections. You can replenish both health and fuel by flying through these balloon rings. You also have a couple of abilities. The two that you'll use the most are the barrel roll and the fast turn. Hitting the square button lets you target up to 4 different enemies and call on a squad of wingmen to attack the targeted targets for a few seconds. And the final ability has to be earned during gameplay by shooting down enemies or building a combo meter. Once unlocked, you can instantly kill a damaged enemy that you're slightly above by shooting them with a pistol, replenishing your health. There's a few mission varieties, a standard destroy all enemy planes, a couple of variations where you have to shoot down or defend hot air balloons with giant blimps acting as boss fights in certain missions, bombing missions, and time trials. My favorite type of missions were the dogfight modes and the massive war blimp missions, with my least favorite being bombing and time trial missions. The bombing missions have a more top-down perspective when you're the bomber, and you can't really defend yourself, so at least in co-op you have to rely on your partner to keep you alive. These missions are hard, if only because the AI always targets the bomber, and for some reason you don't get any AI teammates. The time trial missions, on the other hand, just suck. Not because they're hard, but because they're padding. The idea for these missions is that your plane took damage during the previous battle, and you're constantly leaking fuel, so you need to fly through the fuel balloon rings, collecting all of them. The rings are in a specific linear order that you have to follow, and missing just one pretty much means game over, because you'll run out of fuel trying to get back to it. These missions suck. They're just padding. They don't add anything to the game. Though if there's anything good about these time trial missions, you can use them to earn stars a bit quicker than in some of the other missions. Each mission you can earn up to 3 stars, but unlike most games, you're not always guaranteed 1 star. Stars are used to purchase upgrades such as extra health or more weapon damage, or increasing the amount of squad mates you can call in, or decreasing the cooldown for the barrel roll. Every mission has a set of parameters to earn stars, usually completing the mission in a certain amount of time, or in the case of dogfight missions, racking up a certain score. And like I said, you're not always guaranteed to get even just 1 star, so it does add a bit of incentive to hustle and try to earn the stars, which is pretty nice. In co-op, the upgrades are shared, which is also pretty nice, so you and your friend can just decide what you do and don't want to upgrade. There's a nice variety of enemies you'll fight, which surprised me for a World War I game. You have your basic enemy planes and non-combative balloons, but there's also armored planes, elite planes, and aces, as well as war balloons with Gatling guns. While there's not really any specific tactic to take down enemy planes, each enemy type has their own unique quirk, such as armored planes having regenerative armor, aces being more aggressive, and elites working in squadrons. War balloons require you to blow up their guns before being able to target the balloon itself, and these do pose a bit of a challenge because the guns will eat you up and take all your health. So the strategy with fighting the war balloons is to slowly pick away at the guns while you're slightly out of their range or sending in your squad mates to go deal damage to it. In total, there are 50 missions, which is a decent amount even with the time trial padding missions, 25 missions per campaign. I have to give credit, there's plenty of content in this game, and going for every upgrade and trophy can take a decent time. It's well worth the money if you like this type of game, though from what I've heard the PC port is kinda bad, so I'd get it on console. The last thing I'll briefly cover is the multiplayer modes. In addition to being able to play through the entire campaign in co-op, there are a couple of other multiplayer modes. The only one I've played is the survival mode, not the PvP dogfight mode, but the survival mode is decent enough. You and a friend have to survive 13 waves of enemies. There's no endless mode for some reason, but it's decently enjoyable for a few minutes, and to its credit, playing it on the harder difficulties is actually pretty fun. From what little I've dabbled with the PvP mode, it seems fine, just a 1v1 dogfight mode with a couple of variations to it, like a hide-and-seek mode, but it's not worth it just for the PvP. All in all, Red Wings Aces of the Sky is a decent, worthwhile title. If you're interested in games like this, or just want to try something new, I highly recommend picking it up. The art style and comic book kind of aesthetic the game has is really gorgeous to look at, and what little soundtrack there is kind of catchy and I enjoy it. While the narrative is whatever, if you're a fan of history, you might get a kick out of it because, from what I can tell, the historical thing about the Red Baron seems to be somewhat accurate, though maybe I just don't know enough about the Red Baron to make that assessment. But the gameplay is fun, the controls are solid, and if you got a friend who wants to play through it with you, you're gonna have a pretty decent time. I'd recommend playing it in bursts because I will admit the missions are repetitive, but for what it's worth, it's enjoyable. It's just a simple, old school style flight combat game that harkens back to the old PS2 days with these types of games.